Oh, here we go. Here we go. Welcome to Wizardology. I'm Wade the Wizard. So glad you could join me. This week's episode, gonna look at the Wizardtron 3000 here. Boop, beep, beep. The topic of today's show is death. All right. Well, this is going to be a little bit different. But you know what? All sentient creatures eventually die. And so that's something what we got to talk about. It's important to talk about these kind of difficult topics. But also reminds me of sweet little Squeaky. She passed away just a few, seems like a long time ago, but just a few short weeks. And I wrote a poem, or I wrote a haiku for Squeaky. Squeaky, small, sweet freak, heart the size of a dragon, 20 precious years. Love you, Squeaky. Miss you so much, all the time. Well, all right, so it's time to jump into the show, our show about death. I'm going to be the opening hymn. I'm going to try doing the opening hymn a little bit differently. Oh, my word. Well, that's not queued up. You know what? That's all right. We'll just roll with it. Because I have the link in the description. Check out the opening hymn. So you just pause this video and come back and see me once you're done. You know what? Maybe I will pull it up. I don't know. Because I want to watch it. Oh God. No. This is just give it a pause. We're shifting over. Here we go. It's a great song. Bog Body by the Viagra Boys. Oh, here we go. Just put this just right here. You know, usually that transition is a little bit smoother, but I think that's all right. That was okay. You know, Wizardology is an evolving religion. It's always changing. And, you know, I feel like I'm trying to apply that to my own life, where I just keep the good bits and I get rid of the bad bits. And I'm always trying to improve just a little bit. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's Phoebe. Phoebe, oh Phoebe, the magical potion pheasant. Bring me a drink and make it oh so pleasant. Let's see what she has for us for our sacrament. If you haven't gotten yourself a treat already, then yeah, make sure you get yourself something special. That's what the sacrament is, to love yourself and live your best life. Ooh. This is a sake. Gray whale? What's sake? What is it?
Drunken whale.
Drunken whale. Oh, I'm getting to be a drunken whale tonight. All right, let's see. What else? Okay, so I'm going to change the opening hymn a little bit. I want to just have a little reminder in the thumbnail, and you watch the hymn, and then we'll just jump into the show. I don't know. We'll try something new. But what else? Movie of the Month Club, the Mom Club. That was a part of Wizardology that has been changing and evolving. And believe it or not, now there is a specific show for Movie of the Month Club, which is movies with Wade and Malachi. I should have queued up a little teaser. But you got to check it out. It's just me and my buddy Malachi. And we talk about movies. And it's great. And yeah, it's going to be kind of a Movie of the Month Club. You can join along with us. And yeah, it's going to be fun. We had episode 1, and then episode 2 will be on Malachi's channel, and we'll just alternate like that. But with that being said, I believe it's now time. Oh shit, I wanted to show my rock. Hold on a second. Just give me a second. Oh. Gotta get my rock. And we're back. That was pretty quick. I knew right where it was. Look at this rock. It's a freaking WIZARDOLOGY W. Found this on a hike today. We hiked 10 miles. But isn't that cool? Movies with Wade and with Malachi and Wade. It's gonna be cool. You gotta check it out. All right. So with all that being said, we're gonna invite our special guest onto the show. Here we go.
Interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Wake up.
Smile.
Oh my goodness. Look at that. Everybody give a warm wizard welcome to Sharlynn. Woo! All right. So, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. And I want to say you are a wizard, but if you compare yourself to others, you might not believe it. What makes you, Sharlynn, a wizard?
What makes me a wizard? I would say, like yourself, I grew up in a high demand religion that kind of told me these are your goals. This is how you live your life. And so fit into this box and then everything will be great. And this is the recipe for happiness. And when I left that, when I became a wizard, actually, this, I was like, where's my tattoo? Everything's opposite. This is Dumbo's magic feather, which is what I got when I left religion, because I, in this story, Dumbo, he thinks that holding tightly to this feather, like, gives him these special abilities, these powers to fly. And then his little friend says, that feather was never really magic. You can fly without it. And so I felt like that was a really good metaphor for my life. Like all along, it was like my power. And anyway, I can fly without it. So what makes me a wizard is like the freedom to be authentic, the freedom to like walk around, seeing the world and experiencing the world through the lens that I choose for myself, the lens that works best for me. So yeah,
no, I love that. I knew about your feather tattoo, but I didn't know there was reference to Dumbo's magic feather. I really love that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the power in you. You don't need a feather. Love that. So we're talking about death today, and what do you think happens when we die? Or sentient creatures, we die, everybody dies. What happens after that?
Well, I used to believe, when I was a member of the Mormon Church, I used to believe that then there was like a caste system in heaven, and you got, like grade A, B, C, or fail, and so you would get to be with everyone else that got an A and be with your family and all these things. And honestly, I liked that when I was in it and when I believed it. And when I went to funerals of somebody that wasn't a member of the church, I would think, oh my gosh, that is so sad that they don't believe how I believe, that they don't think they're ever going to see their loved one again. How can anybody go through life with that heart of of an idea. And now I believe that we simply become like no energy is created or lost in the universe, right? So so we just become less organized. Like all our energy is still around, but just in a less organized way. And like all throughout time, things have gone through cycles of life. They get created and then they die and they kind of turn into other things. And, you know, we become what we are because of the food that we eat that comes from the sun and all these things. And so it's just like this beautiful natural cycle. And right now it's like my turn to be sentient and be having these experiences in this body that I have right now. And when I first left religion, I really struggled with the idea of no life after death. But now I am, you know, I've researched into nihilism and the ideas behind that. And I'm super comfortable with it. I mean, of course, I'll be very sad when the people I love die, but I'm very comfortable with the idea that I will just stop existing as me, and I won't have sadness or regret or anything else because I just won't have anything, not feel any of that.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of realized that really there's two parts that we could dive into, but there's grieving the lives of lost ones and how we live our life, how we move on from that and how we celebrate their life. But there's also from your own perspective, like, and I thought what it's going to be like for me to die. And yeah, I think it'll just be like before I was born. No memories, no, I just won't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, and I think that kind of helps lead into, I wanted to talk about, you know, when we focus on, because there is no life after death, we got to focus on now. We got to focus on our life. And I think of, you know, there's been other people who have said it maybe more eloquently, but gems are precious because of their rarity, and life is precious because it's also finite.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about some of the qualities in life. You think, maybe think of some of your friends or family, and I want to talk about, we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit until we maybe run out of ideas. I also want to write these down. But I want to talk about like some of the qualities that makes life that rarity, that gem. And one of the first things that came to mind, or I guess one of the first people that come to mind, is Josh. Just this very likable, friendly, happy. Anybody he meets, he's just, yeah. Well, how do we?
It's just
think
very
of that.
gregarious and likable, and yeah.
Yeah, like people just gravitate towards him, and I think that just makes, that makes him especially rare. You know, you don't see that very often. It's like some people have kind of a spiky exterior, but he's just a little teddy bear, and very approachable and likable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and everybody's a little bit different in the way they live their lives, but in some ways, having a belief in an afterlife, along with, in conjunction with the belief that this life is a test. It's meant to be hard. It's meant to be a trial of your faith. Like instead of working hard to make the best of it, they just kind of like trudge through and, okay, I'll just sacrifice, suffer. And that's okay as long as I'm still proving my faith to God. And then I'll have it amazing when I get to heaven.
Yeah.
And, you know, and but what if there is no life after death? What a tragedy that is to waste this one opportunity that you have, just slogging through and enduring to the end, just so that you can.
Yeah. Actually, I remembered something that I hadn't written down, but when I wrote some weird stuff in my journal as a kid, I thought I was having revelations from God, and I was like scribbling faith and all this stuff. But there was one night I was praying and reading my scriptures, and for some reason I wrote it. I was like under my desk, and I wrote under my desk. It's like really weird, but it was something to the effect of, like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like a lifetime of suffering. I remember that word specifically, but a lifetime of suffering may lead to an eternity of paradise. It's just like, if you can just grind through it, if you can just suffer and endure to the end, being good and feeling guilty about all your sins, you evil, dirty sinner, then and only then you can be happy. But it's like just almost completely the other way around. You can.
It's almost glorified too in a lot of religions. Like, the more you're suffering, God knows, Satan knows you're a more righteous person, and so he's trying you more, or God's trying you more, because or you're going to have more reward. There's all the like missionary stories of like, the more we suffer, the hotter our wives are going to be, or the better our afterlife is going to be, or whatever. And so it's a almost glorified suffering, which doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, every time as a missionary, like every time someone would be, usually the name calling was secta, which meant like a cult sect. Mm-hmm. But they'd be like, yeah, or Mormonite, the Mormons. But yeah. So, well, let's see. How can we tie this in to? Because yeah, I want to focus on these qualities of life, like the best qualities of a person that makes them most rare. Maybe we'll come back to this idea of well,
I mean, you could tie it in a way. So I have a lot that I want to teach you guys about different options for funerals and burial. And so that's definitely a segue in that, everybody is different in the way that their personalities are in their lives, but also in the way that they grieve and the way that they handle death and what they want for rituals, whether that's a religious ritual or, because rituals have been shown to be very healthy for people, especially surrounding big moments like death. And so options are extremely important, right? And so if people don't ever talk about it and they don't know their options, they're like, yeah, there's burial and cremation, right? So I don't know what feels right to me, or what does my religion tell me is okay, and then you just stick with that. But that it's almost doing a disservice to how unique each people are. Everybody is in their own lives, that they can't have something a little more customizable. So that's basically what I can present for you guys today.
Yeah, well, as far as that kind of reminds me of one of the qualities I was thinking of, as far as what makes someone rare, which, I mean, I guess it's kind of, but just like people who are unique, there's people who are just that average, like NPC character, the non-player character in the game, just like, hello, I am a human, and like no depth, no substance, no down to earth realness.
Well, and I think more times than not, they do have that depth here, but for whatever reason, they've been trained to keep things surface level. And that, again, ties into what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about death and dead bodies and funerals. Little disclaimer here. Some people are extremely comfortable with that. And I would say Americans in general are really uncomfortable talking about death, which is why we get robbed, not only of literally financially, but of our choices when it happens, because it's such a taboo subject. Everybody's sensitive and walking on eggshells, and then it happens, and the easiest thing to do is just hand your credit card to the nearest funeral home. You're like, I don't know what to do. This is all too much. It's too hard. But so, yeah, I think those NPC characters that are walking around, they have more depth to them, but they're like, culturally, there's things that you just don't dive deep into. You don't talk about religion and metaphysics and death and sex and, like anything juicy, anything taboo is like, let's talk about the weather and books, movies.
I definitely want to. Wizardology. We talk about it all. We're gonna be talking about sex. We're gonna be talking about. Well, let's see. So we've got likability. Oh, I thought it'd be fun. Well, because in the Mormon Church they have the mantra of like endure to the end. Maybe Wizardology would be enjoy life until the end. Enjoy, or something like that.
Yeah.
But and uniqueness. Let's see. Is there anything else we could, before we move on? Qualities that makes a person's life rare. That precious gem. I would maybe add to that, like, contributing to society, contributing to humanity in a good way. So people.
Yeah. What is that famous quote? I would have had it ready had I thought of it, but they're like, at the end of your life, people aren't going to care how nice your house was decorated or like how much money you had or whatever. It's like, how many people did you make smile? How many people did you make their life better in all these little ways? You know what quote I'm talking about. I'll have to look it up.
Well, I think I get the idea of just like, it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account, but how many people's lives you've touched. And that's kind of part of what I hope to do with Wizardology, even though the outreach is pretty small. We did just pass 400 subscribers. Woo!
Woohoo!
But like, and I just want to hopefully inspire people and make people's lives better and help them in this crazy life. But I think we came up with a pretty good list. So we likability, enjoying life, uniqueness, and influencing other people's lives in a positive way. Well, and I guess maybe that ties in to my next thing I wanted to talk about before we get on to some what we do once the body's dead. But I want to talk about, in your life and in my life, certain people, I guess people who have passed away, who have impacted your life the most. And I will see just maybe how much we get into it, but it has definitely been a big shift for me, where, because I think before I left the church, before I left religion, and I believed in an afterlife, people died, and it was just like graduation,
yeah.
It was just like, oh,
they're
yeah, I'll see him.
They're happier
I'll
now.
see him later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But now, it's really, it's been a big mind shift. And honestly, I think in my life, the closest sentient creature that has passed away since I've stopped believing was Squeaky.
Mm.
And yeah, it was hard. And so just trying to celebrate her life and remember the good. But if there's something that comes to mind, you can jump in. I was trying to remember. I mean, I did have. Well, we had a cousin that passed away. She was like in her 30s,
Mm-hmm.
and she passed away just randomly in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
The doctors, they didn't really even know.
Yeah.
But it was just so weird with like everyone at the funeral, everyone who was grieving. It was this story of, oh well, God needed her in the afterlife or something.
It's one of
It
my
was
pet
just
peeves when people have the audacity to say that they know what God's thinking, and not only does it bother me that they're like, oh, I know what God's thinking, and obviously God needed this person in this other space or whatever, but to somebody that's grieving, especially a child, that is not a helpful thing to say. Be like, so God did this to me and that's supposed to make
yeah,
me feel better? No.
yeah.
Um,
That
and I'm reading a book right now called Advice for Future Corpses, but it's really, I feel like more like advice for caretakers of people who are dying. And they're like, here are things not to say. And it's a lot of good advice and I actually find myself chuckling because I'm like, these are all the things that people say though. These are all the things that people think, oh, if I say this, it will make them feel better. But it's
wait, what that was it was a book, or what was
the
it
book
that
I'm reading right now called Advice for Future Corpses, but it's more
Advice?
like people you're taking care of, a very old person
Yeah.
in palliative care or somebody with terminal cancer or something. They're like, these are all the things that we think that we do or say that we think is helping, and it really just makes it worse. And yeah.
Man, it really brings to mind. I mean, as far as wizardology,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't believe in any afterlife. We're just, and so we try and focus and celebrate on the life. But I hadn't really given much thought as far as, I mean, very early deaths or like those freak accidents. 10-year-old kid is like, gosh, it just makes me even sick to think about. But how do you rationalize? How do you explain? Like, well, that was just the end of their life. I don't know. That's
I mean, so in this space that I spend a lot of time in, which is people that talk about death and dying and funerals and things, we talk about what's called a good death, or what they mean is a good life. But like what does it mean?
preferred.
Since we all have to die, nobody's getting out of it. What's like the best way possible? Does it mean the longest possible? Because that's what a lot of Americans tend to do. They're like, you got to live the longest possible you can, and no dying with dignity, which is the nice way of saying physician assisted suicide, or like anything like that. Just quantity, quantity of years. And but so a lot of people in this space with the that talk about a good death are like, let's focus on the quality of their life, and whether that was 10 years or 100 years, what did they experience? What did they impact? Like we talked about earlier, what made them unique? And the cool thing is that, the memories live on. We can tell stories about people. We can look at pictures of them and watch videos, and it makes us laugh. And, and so, sure, it's better if they're here, but we can enjoy having had experience and continue to enjoy talking about stories and memories.
Yeah. Yeah, that I was glad. It just comes to mind, but Squeaky, like once she started, her journey to the other side, it was pretty quick, and
Mhm.
and yeah, so I was grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was quite sweet. So she was at that last stage of her life, incontinent, so she was just peeing where she slept, and her teeth were bad, so she had her food on her chest. But I gave her one last little bath, and so she was nice and clean, and I dried her off, and she loved being outside, and so I just set her outside on a blanket to enjoy the sunshine one last time. And yeah, after that it was the long cat nap, and I was just glad that it wasn't too drawn out. But
Hmm.
so and we just buried her here in the yard, and maybe that's a perfect segment to talk about burial. Everybody dies, so what do we do with the body
Yeah.
when we're done?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so about a dozen years ago, I kind of just like, this is the book that took me there, Grave Matters. But anyway,
Was there somebody, or I mean, was there like a death in your life that helped you kind of push you in that way, or you were just kind of
I honestly
anticipating?
don't remember what took me off to this book in particular, but I was just like jaw dropped the whole time reading it, going, I've never even thought about this. But it having been to funerals before, I've always felt really uncomfortable at funerals. And I mean, I know you're not supposed to feel uncomfortable or feel comfortable at a funeral.
Well, no, I know what you mean, like
But
the open casket,
particularly viewings and everything felt formal and disconnected and contrived. And so
yeah.
I never cared for that. And then something got me reading that book, and it just led me down a rabbit hole of, oh, there's this alternate universe outside of the formal funeral home that we can do this different. I guess it kind of led me to two discoveries. One is that, especially here in America, like the way we handle death is not healthy. It's expensive.
Uh,
It's really disconnected. And then the second thing is that it's really terrible for the environment. And
that's what I was gonna say, is like one of the big factors for me has been sustainability, because I don't really, once I'm dead, I don't really care. And I thought it's weird, like I've never visited someone's grave. I'm like, you're just a corpse, that's not who you were. I don't know, it's weird. Like when I want to remember my grandpa, I can look at pictures and I can think about those times that we had. But like going to some random public graveyard and looking at a stone with an etched name, and I'm like, well, there's the corpse.
and some people, that's so, some people will go have a
Yeah.
whole picnic there, but that's why it's nice to have options. Like, what do you want? Do you want to scatter my ashes to our favorite place and spend time there to think of me? Or do you want to have it on an urn, like in an urn, so that it's like right there all the time? Or do you want to go to a cemetery and have a picnic in the cemetery with the headstone, and for some reason just knowing that their remains were under there? Like, but that's why options are cool. Some people like that. It's also not my jam to like go to a gravesite.
Yeah.
And with the way people used to stay where their relatives were, and people move around like crazy now. So what do you do? Like people move out of state, and whereas people kind of stayed where their parents were. Anyway, but so Okay, so I dove down this rabbit hole. I joined a bunch of nonprofits that I didn't know existed. But so I do volunteer work for the Utah Funeral Consumers Alliance, the Green Burial Council, and the National Home Funeral Alliance. And Wade's going to put the links in there so people can check them out. And okay, so I'm going to show my screen.
It should be, well, let's see. Let me pop this up. So yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay.
Ready?
Different cultures throughout history have developed unique approaches to burials. As far back as the first Neanderthal burials, death was accompanied by rituals, like the positioning, coloring, or decorating of corpses. Traditional Christian burials decorate the body in dress, while in traditional Islam, a body is wrapped in a piece of ritual fabric with the face oriented toward Mecca. Traditional Hindus ceremonially burn the body, and Zoroastrians, followers of one of the oldest monotheistic religions, traditionally place bodies atop a tower to expose them to the sun and scavenging birds. Before the Industrial Revolution, burials were simple and accessible. These days, with suitable burial land running out in high population areas, purchasing private grave sites can be costly, and many people can't afford simple burials. Even cremation, the second most common burial practice in the world, comes with a high cost. As for the question of running out of space, the issue isn't so much about total land in the world as it is that large populations cluster together within cities. Most of the big cities in the world may run out of suitable burial grounds within a century. For London, it's even sooner. That may happen by 2035. So are there alternatives to traditional burials that might help with the space issue? In some countries, skyscraper cemeteries enable vertical burials. Some options focus on the body's relationship with the environment. Promession, for example, freeze dries and pulverizes the body, creating a powder that can turn into compost when mixed with oxygen and water. There are also green burials that use special materials such as biodegradable caskets, urns that sprout trees, and burial suits that grow mushrooms. Eternal reefs take that concept to the depths of the ocean, using a mixture of ashes and cement to create marine habitats for sea life. Death is an inevitable part of the human condition, but how we treat bodies in burials continues to evolve. We may each have different spiritual, religious, or practical approaches to dying, but the ever-increasing demand for burial space might give us a push to be creative about where our bodies go after the final stages of life.
Okay. So actually, so a lot of people don't know this, but in America, when we make a grave site for somebody, you have it forever, like thousands of years.
Like legally?
Yeah, like they say, okay, we'll always, if it's in a cemetery, like taxpayer money pays for us to upkeep this, keep the stones clean, whatever. In Europe, they're just such an older country that's been doing this for so long that you rent a grave site, like you almost like you rent an apartment. They're like, do you want 30 years? Do you want 50 years? Because look, we got other bodies to get in here. And I want to show a picture of let's see, share my screen again. If you've ever been to the catacombs.
Oh, let me, yeah, there we go.
Show my screen. This is the catacombs in Paris.
And you've been there.
And there's just like hallways of bones. Yes, I've been here. It is so cool. But anyway, so the catacombs, they, like after your rental space is up, whether that's in 50 years or whatever, your bones go into like a boneyard. And so America, ever since kind of we founded America, we're like, oh, we have so much space, we're not going to worry about it. But the truth is, like, just in the US alone, 7,000 people die every day. So are all these people going to get their own exotic wood or metal casket with a concrete vault and an 8x3 foot square of land we're just going to keep giving everybody their own special space? That's eventually going to not work. I mean, we do have lots of extra barren land, but nobody wants to go visit a gravesite in the middle of the badlands of, so so it's an issue. So let's see. So what are some other options that are going to be better for the earth? And I have 2 4-minute clips from
Well,
this.
I was just gonna say, I think it's interesting to think about. I guess like the demographic of religions in America, where whatever 70% of people, like religiously, they believe that they have to have this casket, and they these certain rituals. But
Yes, and I'll talk about that. Well, you saw it in the video. Very interesting. Like some religions believe that you have to be burned, you have to be cremated.
yeah,
That's how your soul gets released. And then some religions, the Zoroastrians, believe that the birds eat the remains of the body and then take them up to heaven, and so you have to be eaten by birds. And Catholics, as my understanding is that they're finally okay with cremation as well as full body burial, but only if you take all the ashes and bury them in the ground together in one piece. Because apparently God has a really hard time, like if you scatter ashes, he has a hard time, like,
the resurrection.
even though he was the creator of all the universe, like he, you don't want to make all this extra work for him to like get your bits and pieces and be resurrected. And God help you if you were eaten by a shark or whatever. So
yeah. Do you know, or do you remember what was like the official position of the Mormon Church?
So it used to be burial only. They do finally allow cremation. However, it's discouraged. That's what the handbook says.
Okay. One of those many commandments that are like, well, what about energy drinks? I don't know.
Yeah, like they're like, we kind of discourage this because we don't really
drink
understand
coffee,
but,
energy drinks. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna. Whoops. Let's do this one. Here we go. And your screen should be ready.
Okay. So I got a couple of like 4-minute clips here.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, sorry.
Today to talk about your future corpse.
We might need to back it
No,
up.
I know. It's not the easiest to contemplate, is it?
That's okay. She's just introducing. And
All
this woman is she's got Caitlin Dowdy. She has a couple of books that are so entertaining, and she has a book called a YouTube channel called Ask a Mortician. And the information is presented in such an entertaining way, and it's so informational and fabulous. So anyway, you should check it out from the Order of the Good Death. Okay, here she goes.
If only we could avoid this conversation somehow. If only the overall death rate wasn't holding at a solid 100%. That's everyone. All people. Future corpses. Alas, there is no avoiding it. You will someday be a corpse, and all your friends and family will have to decide what to do with you, corpsey poo. What a gift it would be if they knew what you wanted for your body. What a way to ease the minds of those given the sacred task of caring for you when you're dead. Let me help you start to make that decision today. Learn about your options. Go in with your eyes wide open.
Before they're forever closed.
I don't know why I use that voice. Death isn't scary. To begin, I'll send you off to my colleague, Caitlin.
Okay, and then she's going to give us some info about...
When you die, you're bound to develop the nasty habit of decaying. So what will a funeral home do? Fill your circulatory system and body cavity full of a carcinogenic cocktail of preservative chemicals called embalming fluid. The formaldehyde in embalming fluid is considered to be in the top 10% of the Environmental Protection Agency's most hazardous and damaging chemicals. A known cancer causer, embalmers must wear full body protection when handling formaldehyde-based embalming fluid. And we're putting that in you and then putting you in the ground. Anything for that forever corpse. To further protect an embalmed corpse, we put our dead inside a sealed casket. Modern caskets can be made out of wood, metal, or a combination of both. Additionally, they're often gasketed with a rubber seal to stop moisture from penetrating the interior and touching the corpse. But wait, there's more. You don't get the smooth, manicured look of a modern cemetery without some underground support. To keep the earth from sinking around a grave, caskets are placed inside burial vaults or grave liners, essentially a casket for a casket. I heard you like caskets, so I got a casket for your casket for your casket. Usually made from concrete or metal, they can be lined with plastic or wood, allowing only the underside of the casket to come in contact with the earth. But caskets and vaults aren't the only thing we're sinking into cemeteries. The average American funeral can cost between $9,000 to $11,000, if not much more. That's hundreds of dollars for embalming and preparation of the body, thousands for a casket, thousands for a vault, thousands for a burial plot, not to mention all the extra fees that can add up, like the services provided by a funeral home. While some people turn to crowdfunding to pay for funerals, it's rare that such a site will raise enough money in a short amount of time to pay for the funeral expenses. Even the popular crowdfunding site GoFundMe only raises an average of approximately $2,000 for funeral or memorial campaigns. We have this cultural expectation that we need a fitting and respectable burial for our loved one, and end up paying an exorbitant amount, up to $10,000 for a sealed casket alone, in hopes of ensuring the departed's preservation. After doing right by their dead and spending beyond their means, many people fall into severe debt or even bankruptcy. But this is what we've been conditioned to do by our culture and the funeral industry: pay to avoid the reality of death. That is to say, the more you pay, the less you decay. Yay. We're obsessed with putting extra resources into the ground with our dead in an attempt to stop our bodies from doing what they do best: decomposing. All the wood that goes into making caskets has to come from somewhere. In 1 year, over 4 million acres worth of forests go into creating caskets. That's like the size of New Jersey. Over 100 million tons of steel are also used for caskets, over 2 billion tons of concrete are used to make burial vaults, and more than 800,000 gallons of formaldehyde are put into these conventional American cemeteries every year. That's 800,000 gallons of a known carcinogen going into the ground. And for what? A bid for immortality? You can pump a corpse full of formaldehyde, put it in an airtight casket inside a burial vault lined with plastic in the most pristine memorial park in the Western world, and it's still only a temporary solution. That body will decompose like a champ. So what's a corpse to do? What's the option for a person who lived an eco-conscious, greener life to live a greener death? Can we really change the funeral industry? I'm glad you asked. Join me as we step out of the traditional cemetery and into the world of natural burial and green death. Find out how simple it can actually be just to bury a body and let it decompose, but in a way less serial killer way than I just said it. At this point...
Okay, and then let me skip to...
I wanted to... two thoughts that came to mind is, like, one, I had no idea... Well, let me pop it over to this real quick.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was this bad. Like, so many trees and concrete and chemicals and thousands of people dying. Well, thousands of people dying every day. And my other thought, well, this isn't something people talk about. You know, when we talk about sustainability,
sensitive and careful about death. Like,
yeah. I don't know. Like, it happens. Let's talk about it. And, like, how can we? Man, that's.
Yeah. Well, so while you have me on the screen, I'm going to show you. Oh, actually, let me show these pictures. Actually, share my screen for a sec.
Yeah. Let's go here.
So,
all right, bananas.
These bananas lost their lives. Very sad. And I took them, and one of them just wrapped in a shroud, and the other one just left it as is, but put it in a container. And then the other one, the closest equivalent as I could do is like an embalming, which people think embalming is going to keep their body like looking like a mannequin under the ground for forever. It really just preserves them long enough that they look better for the viewing. That's all. There's still so much live skin and live parts. So anyway, okay, so now you can pan back to me. So I buried these bananas. I gave them a very respectable funeral. And this is the one in a sealed casket that was embalmed with preservatives. And sad to say, it's still not looking too great. And then the unembalmed but buried one is really squishy, really wet. And guess what happened to the one that I just put in a shroud? It was so already turned into dirt that I had to put it in there's a little bit of the peel left, but it's just turning back into dirt. And so to me, this is more beautiful. This is, in the scriptures, even if you're religious, you're like dust to dust. That's this. That's
Yeah.
this. This is not dust to dust. And some people will even pay for caskets that have like a rubber gasket. They're like, oh, you don't want the elements getting into your mother, do you? You're like, there is no stopping Mother Nature. They are not going to be preserved under there. That rubber gasket cost them $12, and water gets in anything and everything. And even if it didn't, even if we somehow found ways to completely seal out everything, again, our skin is live. There's so much live tissue and flesh, even with an embalming, that it's going to decay. And so it's time to just face that. And instead of trying to pay all this extra money and put in all this extra effort to somehow make it keep lasting, let's just let it turn back into the earth, because that's beautiful to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking like our bodies are made like our bodies grow because of the nutrients that we eat, the food, and food comes from, whether you're carnivore, herbivore, carnivore, vegetarian, it all comes from the earth. All these plants grow from the earth. And so, yeah, just returning to the soil.
Yeah. So I think that's beautiful, whether you believe in a God and a creator, or you just believe in the environment that we need to take care of, and you're atheist. I think that's the most beautiful choice.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's pan back to Caitlin, because she's going to continue to talk about green burial.
Okay.
Are you trying to hawk some gimmicky new age gluten-free organic vegan woo-woo funeral thingy in my woods?
Okay, fine. Yes, natural is a tricky word and not the easiest to define. Humans have been naturally burying their dead since dead bodies were invented. So somewhere between when that fish crawled out of the primordial soup and Elvis. But what people in the West have come to accept as tradition in terms of burying our dead in the last 150 years is far from it. I mean, remember this? Now, when we talk about natural or green burial, we're, at least I'm, talking about the simplest way to put a corpse in the earth and let nature take its course with little to no negative environmental impact. What does that entail? Honestly, not that much. An unembalmed corpse is either wrapped in a biodegradable shroud made of something like unbleached cotton or bamboo cloth, or placed inside a casket made of biodegradable material like seagrass or willow. Like this lovely lady. Next, a shallow hole 3 to 4 feet deep and human-sized is dug. No burial vault required or wanted. Bonus, the dead person's loved ones can help dig the hole if they're into that sort of thing. The corpse is then placed in the earth and covered with dirt. Once buried, the corpse can be feasted upon by bacteria, carrion beetles, maggots, and the whole wild kingdom living in that soil. Et voila, you've been naturally buried. Congrats, your decay is imminent. But maybe you're saying, big whoop, Caitlin, maybe that green buried corpse will decay in the dirt faster, but so what? An embalmed corpse in a steel casket and cement vault will decay too, it'll just take longer. Plus, isn't it unsafe to have an unembalmed corpse buried in such a shallow grave without a sealed casket? What about all the germs and diseases that a corpse could leach into the ground and water supply? Shh. Don't listen to them, my precious. It'll just be you and me and the bacteria. In fact, a study published in the Pan American Journal of Public Health found that not only do pathogens survive for a very short amount of time in a dead body and in the soil around it, but the groundwater outside the cemetery was more contaminated by products associated with the burial process than the actual corpse.
Ooh.
What's more, the pathogens present in a corpse buried in a shallower natural grave are killed off quickly and efficiently, leaving little to no chance of contamination. Why is that? Because when a corpse is buried closer to the surface of the earth in a shroud or biodegradable casket, it has access to oxygen flow. Oxygen allows bacteria to break down the tissues of a body, and as bacteria gobbles up that tissue, it creates heat. In certain conditions, a decomposing corpse can reach well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Even if a corpse doesn't reach such high temperatures, the heat it does produce kills off most, if not all, pathogens that may have been present at death. But the most striking difference between natural burial and a more conventional burial is the impact on the environment. Whereas...
Okay. So...
I was thinking of how when we buried Squeaky, because we were talking about, should we wrap her in a cloth or should we? And I was thinking, she came into this world naked, and maybe we should go out in this world naked. And that's kind of maybe we can wrap up with talking about what we would prefer to how to be buried. But I want to be completely naked.
Yeah.
I want to go out of this world as I came into this world, just completely naked.
Just hopefully not the wailing part. Like you came into the world screaming.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Hopefully not that part.
Or covered in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So let's talk about options. So I made a little slideshow, and then we can talk about what you think.
Yeah. Oh, let's here. Yeah. Let's talk about options.
Okay. So there's the modern conventional burial, and it costs on average like $8,500. It's legal to do everywhere. And you can just let the funeral home do everything. And like I say, it's all about choices. Like this isn't my jam, but some people need somebody else to do everything. They don't care what the cost is. So that's fine if that's your jam. Then there's cremation, which is actually getting more common in the
I got to
US.
stop you right there. I don't know if this is a thing, but I see in that picture a casket going into the oven. Is that
so
standard?
There's some options you can do. You can buy, you can't just put a body in naked, like you say. You have to either have like a the cheapest thing you could do is like a cardboard container. And I don't know if that's because of like dignity or the machinery or what, but like you have to at the bare minimum get a cardboard container.
Yeah.
So, but some people do buy very expensive wooden caskets just to go in the crematory.
Jeez.
Or they'll have like a viewing in a nice casket, and then they'll use like a cardboard.
Save the casket for someone else.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can like rent a casket. Like this is just for the viewing.
Viewing. Yeah.
Okay, and then I am going to have Caitlin explain what alkaline hydrolysis is. 1241.
This is my preferred. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Basically, the arguments against alkaline hydrolysis can be boiled down to, boiled down, get it? What has been called the ick factor. Opponents of alkaline hydrolysis are troubled by the notion that grandma is turned into sludge and then flushed down the drain.
It's Satan's errand.
By the way, all of them fire and brimstone fighting words are pulled directly from arguments Americans had against cremation back in the late 19th and early 20th century. Most of those arguments of disrespect or treating humans as waste are echoed in the current battle against alkaline hydrolysis, except now cremation is being defended as respectful and proper. Oh, America, you fickle beast. But it's all about perception. Those who argue against alkaline hydrolysis, like the Catholic Church, see flushing away the dead as undignified and unnatural. Some see setting your mom's corpse on fire or putting her chemical-soaked body in an underground box as undignified. That's why we need lots of legal options. Different strokes for different dead folks, as my mom used to say. Not the dead part. Also, when your loved one's corpse is embalmed, where do you think their bodily fluids go after being replaced with embalming fluid? Just like they did with cremation, I believe we can come around to alkaline hydrolysis. It's a matter of being exposed to it. As writer Sarah Zhang said, alkaline hydrolysis could certainly use an image makeover.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say that's when I've looked into it, as my first priority would be to just be a green burial. Just throw me in the dirt naked. But then option number 2, as far as like legal issues, would be liquid or what
you can call it water cremation or alkaline hydrolysis or aquamation. Yeah. So it is legal in 28 states. And it's a little more expensive than cremation, but it's a lot better for the environment. So it uses 1/8 of the energy and leaves a fourth of the carbon footprint as cremation. And if you
Yeah.
if you can see on the picture here, I guess it's not very big, but the bag of remains that they send home with your family looks about the same as cremation. So, like, I would say if cremation is something that you've thought about, then if aquamation is legal in your state, that's just it's better for the environment. If you're fine with paying a extra $1,000 for it to be better for the environment, then that's the better choice. Because the thing with cremation is that all those toxic chemicals go up into the air, especially if you chose to be embalmed. If you chose for the body to be embalmed first for viewing, and then you go to cremation, like all that formaldehyde and like mercury from their fillings and whatever else is going up into the sky, and it gets in the rain and the groundwater and stuff like that. So it's bad for the environment and the amount of energy it takes, but then also the smoke. So this once the liquid part of the body, which you can actually ask, it's actually just like a nutrient rich fertilizer. So if you chose this for your loved one, you can not only take home the bone, bone powder.
Yeah. What doesn't? Yeah.
You can actually ask for the liquid part too, and if not,
Oh no.
yeah. Some people be into that. They'd be like, I don't know, I want to
No.
water my garden with it or something. But
Okay. Yeah. I guess the options are important.
yeah, but so it's it's definitely cheaper. And then what I think it's cool about both aquamation and cremation is then you've got some kind of remains that your loved ones can put wherever they think. Like I had a friend that was cremated, and he's like, I want everybody to, at my wake, my celebration, to just take some cremains and then sprinkle them somewhere that you think I would love to go, or one of my favorite places, wherever you want to think of me. Right. And so, like you say, rather than going to like one spot, or if you move out of state and you're not going to be able to access that spot anymore, and then it's not taking up that space in the ground. So I think that's pretty cool. And then this is kind of new on the scene. Natural organic reduction is the nice way of saying human composting. It's legal in 12 states, and it costs like $6,000 to $8,000 depending on, whether you're doing like services with it and stuff.
So just real quick, is there with one of the links that you included, is there a place where we can check what's legal in the state? That, like, you're in Utah, I'm in New Jersey. Can I do natural organic reduction?
Yeah, but also just a simple Google search is natural organic reduction legal in New Jersey? Yeah.
Okay.
So and yeah, I think this is really beautiful. I mean, it's kind of similar to green burial in that you're being turned into soil, literally, like the banana that I showed you. Yeah. But it's just faster, and it doesn't take a designated space in the earth. And so you're turned to earth, and then those people can, your loved ones can like have a geranium in a pot, and you are always take it wherever you move, or grow different things in it, which is kind of cool. So the main thing that a lot of states, like, it almost got legal in Utah, and we were trying to push it. But then finally, like, the main argument is, if you bury somebody on private property, then there's all kinds of legal logistics when you sell the house, like you have to disclose that there's the body in the yard, and like some people don't want to buy a house where there's the body in the yard. And so they're like, well, if you took this soil and put it in your yard, then do you have to disclose that when you sell the house? There's a body in your yard. It's like, well, it's not really a body. It turned into something else. But yeah, I get how that's like something that people have a hard time understanding. So, and then green burial that we talked about, and which I think is so beautiful.
Is that legal in Utah, or how many does it
green
say?
Burial is legal
in most states
everywhere. No, green burial is legal everywhere.
Oh.
What might come up is that depending on what cemetery you choose, they might say, but it's our policy that you have to at least have a concrete vault, because then the earth won't collapse in and we need to be able to take our lawnmowers over it and like care for it. Because if you're just decomposing, then the earth will be all funky and shifting around. So like, for example, there's certain religions where you cannot be in any kind of container that would prohibit decomposition. So so you would have to have like either holes in your casket, or you're in a shroud. And then if you choose a cemetery where they require a concrete vault, they'll have like just the top only. It's like, looks like the top of like a butter dish, or they'll have holes in it so that you can decompose. So you can make that special request. So it would be like a cemetery policy thing. But there's nothing, and this is an important thing, like if there's no law anywhere that says a corpse has to be embalmed. It might be a funeral home's policy, like say, if you want to have a viewing with our name on it, it needs to be embalmed, because otherwise the corpse is going to like maybe smell funny. It's going to look a little funny, and we don't want our name associated with that. So it might be their policy. But if you're having a funeral home take care of things and they say, oh no, you have to have the body embalmed, it's a lie. That's their policy. It's not illegal anywhere to just choose to not be embalmed. So so yeah, the tricky thing is with funerals is just cemeteries policies. So you could do green cemetery only, or you could just say, hey, my personal or religious belief is that we need to not be embalmed and not have a casket. And they might say, okay, but you have to have like a cement vault over the top or whatever. So, but I think it's really beautiful. And then of course, like body donation. The only thing with body donation, if you donate your body to science, a couple of things to think about is some people think like it's all always just going to be like this scientific research. And the reason I put the book Stiff on there is I found it fascinating. The subtitle is The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. And they talk about all the things in the past that people used to do with cadavers, and in the present, what they do with cadavers. And you could be, if you just openly donate your body to research, like it could be plastic surgeon, it could be military related, like they're testing what kind of weapons like are used, what kind of weapons, what kind of damage they're done on a body. And so if that's really disconcerting to you, then you need to be specific and say, no, I want it for like medical research only. You could also have your body used for forensic things, like it helps investigators figure out, when a person was murdered, for example, like, this is how fast a body decomposes in a trunk or in a river or whatever. So then we know about the time of death. So if you're okay with that.
I knew somebody who like their preferred way to die was, there was like some specific terminology for it, but basically they would just put your body out in a field and then study how it decomposed. And
and honestly, in order to get the natural organic reduction legalized in the first state, it was a real struggle. They had to have people that volunteered to donate their body to the research of it. They're like, we're trying to figure out this different way of disposing of bodies, and we've got this idea of composting human remains, and will you let us compost your remains so that we can say, hey, this is how long it takes, this is what materials we need to put in. Like some people are super uncomfortable with the idea of putting any sort of like poop, excrement. Most people put poop in their compost, like gardeners are like, composting human remains, no, that's like you put poo in there and all this gross stuff. So like, well, we want to figure out how to let a body decompose with the most dignity possible. So we got to figure out what materials we can put in that would make it work, and so stuff like that. So they needed people to donate their bodies to get that figured out. So just so many ways. They use human bodies as crash test dummies sometimes, because they're like, we need to understand like how seatbelts and airbags impact actual human fleshy tissue. You can't replicate that with a dummy. So yeah, they're like putting human cadavers and seatbelting them in and crashing cars with them.
But how do, like, I guess I'm thinking of like rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis only lasts like 12 to 24 hours. So it sets in like 6 hours and then like 6 hours, and then it lasts 12 to 24 hours after that, and then it gets relaxed again. So yeah, so and that's something we can talk about with like home funerals, because I love the idea of home funerals. Let me show these couple of pictures. This is an Instagram page that I follow. This is like a green burial. They talk about how you don't have to hire.
What's it called?
Paperback Death Care. I'm not sure where she's based out of, but like a lot of people don't know, you can transport a body in your own truck. You just have to get a permit for it. You can have a funeral at home. Like, look at all these beautiful pictures. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like all the notes, love notes in there. There's this picture of this home funeral where, oh, here it is. Like they're having a funeral at home and the cat came on and just kept laying on her human, and you know, and why not? That's so sweet. Anyway, and you can, you know, decorate that. Here's another family just doing their own thing. One thing that I always found kind of sad about when you're asked to be a pallbearer at a funeral, but they don't want you to actually carry the casket, or like, you know, they have this like sort of cart. I guess you do carry it.
Honorary pallbearer.
You know, yeah, like pallbearers. They're like, well, we don't want you to actually do the work because, like, what if somebody drops it or something? And so it's very supervised. But one thing that's beautiful about green burials, I was trying to find this picture of them lowering into the ground, but you know, like your family can do the work to, even like Caitlin said in her video, if everybody wants to take a turn to shovel a shovel full of dirt on top of the grave, or you want to have some strong people in the family lower the grave into the ground. I have an interesting story of when Josh's grandma died. His grandparents were like ranchers, farmers. Everything's like DIY and hard work and work with the earth and the ground and the animals and everything. And when his wife died, everything was formal and that disconnected funeral home service. And we go out and we got this super fancy casket that's set aside with the faux grass on the side. And we're all sit there and we did the little service. We said, okay, Grandpa, it's time to go back to the church and eat lunch now. And he said, what do you mean? We just leave her here? And we said, well, yeah, you know, the tractors are kind of loud and distracting and, you know, just uncomfortable. So yeah, we go away and then they do all that. And he's like, but we can bury her. It was this weird disconnect for him. He's like, I'm a freaking rancher. And I'm going to let like tractors and people that don't even know her lower her grave into the ground and bury it up and stuff. You know, he wanted a hands-on approach. And so if you don't want a hands-on approach, that's fine. But like, if you've always been a really connected to the earth and connected to your human, hands-on kind of person, then I feel like that can help you with your grieving process, to build a casket, to wash the body, wrap the body in a shroud, have little kids draw on the casket or put flowers in there or whatever. Then it can feel more healing and more connected to do that than to have a professional bring in the flowers and arrange the flowers, have a professional do their makeup. You know, they didn't do their makeup like that. Let's do it, you know, like this, or that their hair looks stupid like that, curled like that. And the other beautiful thing about a home funeral is like people grieve so differently and in different timelines. And so I feel like when you outsource it to a funeral home and they're like, this is what time everybody can come see the bodies. And probably it would be good if you were in this stage of your grief when everybody showed up and you have like kind of a cry on cue.
From 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, you grieve.
Yeah, the funeral starts at 6. So that's when you need to look the saddest and make sure everybody knows that you really did love this person that much, or whatever. I know of a loved one when our uncle died when I was 12. His brother had a full-on anxiety attack at the viewing. I guess
I can get into that more later.
But it was really weird. I was 12 at the time, and everything felt so formal. You know, you have so many guests there, and he fell on the floor having this anxiety attack. And it was like, shh, you need to be quiet. You need to like sweep.
That's not the correct way to grieve.
Well, like sweep you away out of the room because everybody now feels uncomfortable and whatever. And if you can keep your loved one at home on ice packs, which is perfectly legal. So keep your loved one at home. You can spend time looking at them, thinking about them, dressing them, talking to them if that helps. You can go through these waves of grief in a more natural way. Are you going to grieve at 2 a.m. but want to be asleep at 6 p.m. when they would otherwise be doing the funeral because you're exhausted? Then that just seems so much more natural than this scheduled thing with these strangers from a funeral home who they're like conducting it and supervising everything. And you're like, you don't even know them. You're just collecting the paycheck. It's kind of weird that you're standing there and driving them and stuff. I don't know. Again, like if that's what you need to outsource, that's fine. But for me, I'm a DIYer. We can do this.
I would gladly be your pallbearer, grave digger. But I mean, I think you're going to be outliving me. I
don't know.
Well, maybe we'll go out together. I don't know. That's one of the things that I've thought has been of the funerals I've been to. It's been so weird to just, they'll have the casket nicely placed over the grave, and will you put your little flower on there and then go have lunch or whatever. Yeah. It's like, it feels unresolved. It's just like
different cultures and different religions. They spend a lot more time with the body, and they spend a lot more time with the funeral, and some people need that.
Well, let's see. I guess maybe did you have anything else you wanted to add, or else we can?
Well, let me just show these guys a couple of, if this home funeral thing is sounding good to you, there's the Home Funeral Alliance, and they have this downloadable guide, or you can get it off of Amazon, and it's literally every detail. This is how you bathe the body. This is how you wrap it. These are some surprises that might come. This is how you close the eyes or close the jaw or things like that. And then also you can go laws by state, and this is what you're asking at. So you can find out what's legal in your state. Do you need to get a transportation permit to transport the body in your own truck? Or for instance, like some states, you're required to hire a funeral director. Like you don't have to use all their services, but you have to at least have everything kind of like supervised under them. And then let's see, the one that I do, the utahfunerals.org, and there's a national funerals Consumers Alliance, but then most states have their own. And this is mine that me and my colleague work on. And it's very cool because you can click on DIY funerals, and it has step-by-step instructions on how to do your own funeral, or what parts you can do on your own if you want. And this is what I like: when death occurs flowchart. Okay, so you're in freak out mode, right? That's fine. Death occurs. Like, did you expect it, or is it an unexpected death? Is it a hospital nursing home? Okay, what do I do next? Okay, what do I do next? and all the way down to, okay, now are you going to do cremation, burial, body donation? Does it have to go out of state? And so just a really helpful resources for people to get on. And because there's so many little decisions, like for instance, even just calling around a couple of different funeral homes can save you $3,000-$4,000, because there's one funeral home that charges these weird obscure fees, and you think, okay, whatever, I guess that's probably normal. But nope, you just needed to call the funeral home 5 more miles away, and you could have saved $4,000. But it's sad, because not all, many funeral homes tend to take advantage of people and they can, it's so easy to, because people are in grief mode and you can't think clearly. And you're just like, yeah, I don't know, here's my credit card number, just do whatever it is that you guys do, and it ends up costing $10,000.
Well, I a lot to take in. A lot of impressive information. Just kind of curious, I'm sure you have your plan for you, or like, what's your preferred, probably?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of organ donation. So I'm like, if the death occurs in such a way that you can get like live organ donations, harvest everything you can, save as many lives as you can. And then I would prefer alkaline hydrolysis, because it's better for the, so it definitely makes it trickier. Like, I would love to have like a home funeral and alkaline hydrolysis. So if you choose to be an organ donor, they can do that. And then you can still take a body home for a home funeral and then choose whatever burial you want. It just makes it trickier. There's a little suit called it doesn't matter what it's called, but like they can do organ donations and then just sort of put like a neck to feet suit over you so that you're not like oozing liquids. Like they'll sew you up, but they'll take the organs and then sew you up, and then you can still have a viewing or a wake or funeral or whatever, and then still ship you off to the aquamation facility or the cremation facility or green burial or whatever. You would, if you do green burial, everything needs to be able to decompose, so you can't have a plastic suit on for that. You'd have to have that removed. But so that's my thing, unless I like die an old lady and everybody's like, nobody wants those organs. Because I'm too old or whatever, then just like the alkaline hydrolysis. I love the idea of green burial, but alkaline hydrolysis, so that then people can take my remains and go put them whatever special place they want to think of me.
I love that. Where would I put your ashes?
Yeah,
that's a good one. I don't know. Maybe this the subway or something. Something like.
Yeah. For those watching, he doesn't. I don't think he means the New York subway.
Right. To be specific, there's a canyon, a slaw canyon in Zion.
People like the subway.
Maybe I'll have a little in my pocket while I go through the New York subway and just. I
did have. I've sprinkled my friend that was very adventurous. He loved the outdoors, but he also loved competition and racing. Yeah. And so I've sprinkled him a lot of different outdoor places that he loved. But since he was really, really passionate about racing, for my first triathlon, I had just a little pinch of ashes in my back jersey pocket that I threw across the finish line as I went. I know, don't tell, but I threw across the finish line like, this one's for you, Mike. Like I know you would have been here rooting for me, so
Well, and it was good you were so far ahead in the race, because if someone had been right behind
you, it wasn't that big of an amount. Yeah.
Well, let's see. Do we have anything else? I don't think I had anything else that I wanted to add, but
maybe you might want to see this, like, since we're talking about cremains, show my screen, and there's a lot of different options. Like
Hmm.
they're like, you can take them on a trip around the world. You can turn them into jewelry. You can scatter them at sea. Although, oh, we didn't talk about burial at sea.
Is this one of the links that you?
I didn't link
Oh,
this
my!
one, but
I can be a firework.
you can be put. There's a company that puts you into fireworks.
Oh, hell yeah!
There's a company that can shoot you into space. Actually,
I don't
you
know.
can be put into a tattoo, like put into tattoo ink. Here it is. Shoot them into space. Ascension flights will send you up into a meteorological balloon. Plant them as a tree. Release them with doves. Jump out of a plane with them. Create a vinyl record.
Oh.
There's a company that can compress ashes into diamonds, so you can like make it ashes into a diamond, store them into a cuddle toy, put them into art. They mentioned it briefly in the TED Ed video, but they make underground or cement artificial coral reefs, and they'll mix your ashes with the cement and then sink the coral reefs so you can like scuba dive to your loved one's ashes. But yeah, there's a lot of options.
And this link, I'm sure you
This one is
shared
just
that.
easily Googleable what you can do with ashes, and there's just so many companies that do different things with ashes. Or cream or aquamated remains.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Man, I really thought. I mean, my plan was to just donate any viable organs, and then like maybe donate my body to science, or if that another option would just be green burial. But yeah I might want to be a firework. I don't know.
Yeah, baby, you're a firework. But you can do both. If you are going to donate your body to science, it needs to be like pre-registered or very explicitly written in your will and everything, because especially if it happens suddenly, people are you need to get it there quickly because they have processes that they need to take care of pretty urgently. So most people, if it's not planned out ahead of time, it's just not going to work. So plan it ahead of time and get in the register, but also have a backup plan, because sometimes they're like, we got a surge of body donations and we literally can't accept any bodies right now, or there might be some reason why they're not taking bodies. So you need a backup plan, and then you need to know that in rare instances, there's no remains. So like if your loved ones want some sort of remains, then they should make that clear. But in most cases, once they're done doing whatever they're going to do for the scientific purposes, they'll cremate you and then give your loved ones remains.
And I mean, I guess pun intended, but God forbid you could die at any time. So you got to have that plan of what they're going to do with your body.
Yes.
Maybe I'll get a tattoo. It'll say step 1, take my organs.
Have the flow chart, have the, yeah.
What to do if you find this corpse dead? Or this
kidney cut here.
Yeah, a little cut chart.
Take this one too, cut here. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, this was a great show. I feel very well informed. Anything else you would like to say before we wrap up? And
just like, get your stuff ready so that your loved ones don't have to deal with it while they're grieving. Let them know how you want things to look. And memento mori, right? Like, which is Latin for remember that you're going to die, and not in like a depressing way, but so many people spend their lives avoiding the topic. That's taboo. It's weird. It's sensitive. Everybody always knows somebody that had somebody that recently died, so we want to be sensitive and not talk about it. But the thing is that studies show it's really healthy to talk about death, really psychologically healthy to talk about it and have that awareness, so that you can live your life to the fullest and remember that it is precious and yeah.
Great. I love it. Well, with that, I don't believe in any gods, but I believe in you. And I hope that you live your best life until you die. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Bye. All right. Hey. Well, I had a great conversation with Sharlynn. That was a great. I learned a lot, man. To be a firework. I hope you enjoyed the show. We're gonna do Wizardology every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and with that, we are going to. So I'm gonna change the closing hymn a little bit. Instead of showing you a little clip of it, I'm just gonna ask you to go down into the description and check out Death Cab for Cuties. I will follow you into the dark, and hope to see you next time, next second Sunday. See you then.